Everyone, welcome back to Spiritual Growth Tarot and Astrology. I'm Denise, and this reading is going to be devoted to the partial lunar eclipse that's coming up on the 28th. So I'm going to swap out cameras here, bring you over my table, dive into the chart, and then take you through the houses. So if you know your chart and you know where 5 degrees you can find, of course, if you have your chart, you can find 5 degrees of Taurus, and that's where the lunar eclipse is going to be happening. It's partial, but you know, it's not a full lunar eclipse, but still, it'll give us something. Okay, or release something, right? And could be a good thing. So let me, like I said, swap out cameras here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so with this eclipse, one thing to note is that this is the last one within the set of Taurus to Scorpio eclipses when it comes to the lunations, the lunar eclipses. So the first one started in 2021. I think it was late 2021. And this is the last one until 9 years from now. So that'll be 2032. So this one's important because things are coming to a real completion in some areas for us, depending on which houses which house 5 degrees of Taurus is. But some other notes are just to remember that generally lunar eclipses the events are usually more internal. But I'm not sure that we can really, I try not to use hard and fast rules except for the orbs, when we're trying to figure out where it lands in our charts, things like that. But, I mean, we're seeing so much all over the world, with all the different wars and things breaking down. And so those are not internal events, although we could blame those events on the solar eclipse, right? Because those are definitely, or usually we look at those as being external events. So, but anyway, back to, let's focus just on us for a little while. Well, yeah, maybe not entirely. It's just to remember that it's an eclipsed full moon, right? It's not just a Taurus full moon, it's an eclipsed full moon. And because the moon rules the public, we may not see, and we might not know, because things are kind of hidden with an eclipse, right? The sun is moving across in front of the moon. So the moon's in the shadow. With the moon ruling the public, then that means that we might not see and we might not know all the powerful progress that's being made to uncover dark money players, the dark side of Taurus and Scorpio axis. So, and this is happening all over the planet, right? We're talking Russian mobbed up money. We're talking oligarchs with all of their money laundering ways that they've been doing. Who was it? Sarah Kendzior called it the transnational money laundering crime syndicate. So there could be some important discoveries about that, but we won't know about it, because they don't come out and just say, oh, hey, we got you here, we know that there, and then they go and move things around. No. Just think of like Jack Smith and Alex Whiting and what they might be doing behind the scenes to nail somebody, nail somebody, or nail a huge group of people. This period might be the time when it actually happens, but we won't know it until it does happen. So that's one of those things with the the eclipses, and especially with the solar eclipse and the full moon eclipse, it can be events a couple weeks before, or a month before, or a month after, and it can last for 6 months or so. And it can set the trajectory, like with that solar eclipse we had, it can set the trajectory for the next 19 years of your life, if you make some decisions and move in a different direction, that it changes. Those things can be life-changing. So I just wanted to say that. What else? With the, all things Taurus, and especially with Jupiter there combined, and I mean, my goodness, it's like we have the spotlight on with the sun in Scorpio, penetrating deeply into all things related to Taurus. And Taurus is all about money. It's fixed. Taurus and both Taurus and Scorpio are in a fixed polarity. So we're in a holding state, or we're trying to hold something together. But something's coming to, like a full circle coming to fruition. Or if we're coming from the energy and consciousness of all things related to Taurus, we're better able to understand what matters most to us, and we're trying to hold on to that. But things are needing to be released. And so the question is, like, what are our new set of values? We might be focusing on our personal finances, and there might be a new awareness of boundaries and more sensitivities in your body than ever before. That's especially true with that opposition of Venus and Virgo and this is an approaching opposition over to Neptune. We've got sensitivities here. And so that's a real consideration. So self-care is really important, and we will probably start to notice more and more how that is the key to everything. Right? Because if we're out of balance, and the solar eclipse with the Aries Libra axis, I think probably taught a lot of people that we really need to make decisions, which is a Libra thing, to stay in balance. What always brings us back to balance is the key. So, because we don't want to get depleted. It's about avoiding depletion. It's about avoiding extremes with Taurus-Scorpio polarity there. And with Taurus, there's that connection to what we sense with our bodies, so it's time to honor that and listen. And with a connection there, it's only, about 7 degrees away from, or 6 degrees, away from Jupiter. So that's pretty, it's not a tight conjunction, but it's there. And Jupiter's so big, it's exuding all of that largeness, all of that energy. Jupiter is all about our belief systems, right? So this is the backdrop. We've got Pluto up here squaring the nodes all the way through the 7th of December. And it's all about, these real needs to be, or the real need to be in our authority and not let these people who think that they're in power get away with stuff anymore. And we have the support of Eris here at the North Node, which is the direction we're all heading. The South Node is the past, North Node's the future. And we know what's happened in the past. We've been through the whole Taurus-Scorpio nodal axis for that year and a half before, and since July we've been in the Aries Libra. But with Eris there, it takes her 558 years to get around the zodiac, so I see her as being much more powerful than Pluto, because she's the slowest moving planet. She's a dwarf planet, so's Pluto. They're both dwarf planets. So I think that nobody's giving up on what matters most. And with this moon full moon in Taurus, I would think that, and it's at 5 degrees, so it's not fully formed when it comes to something you can really hold on to. That's why I'm saying it might be more of letting go of what doesn't work and holding on to what does work. But when it comes to Taurus, we're in those realms of survival. And with Scorpio, it can be with the polar opposite, merging our resources together sometimes. That would be the best way to use the energy. That deep connection that you have with your kindred spirits, that helps get you into your autonomy and come from your inner authority. As long as you're, in integrity, and when I say integrity, I mean, what do you spend your money on? What do you give your energy to? Do we spend a lot of time on things that waste our energy, or are we coming from our deepest belief system? And here's, a Taurus in that second decan of Jupiter. Jupiter in the second decan of Taurus. We're still in that realm there with, bringing together the plans. There's the integration that's needing to happen because it's still newly there, and it's retrograde. That will be the case for a little while longer. So anyway, back to the important thing is to focus here with the moon and Jupiter together. There's an expansion of our belief system based on what works, what can we hold on to, what is right to hold on to, right? Like there's that connection with, you can feel it in your body, you can feel what brings in life force, you can feel what helps you get through the day. Like if you're moving through your day and you feel a sudden drop in your energy, you know that you're working on something that's probably, and a lot of times there's little things that we just have to do. But if it's not something that you don't have to do in order to take care of your own, real needs, because that's a, very Taurian part of life, then it's depleting you. So you have to differentiate, make that distinction, and Venus and Virgo helps us do that on the subtle levels, with the opposition to Neptune there. It's all about figuring out what brings in more life, what feeds the life force within you, and what depletes you. But there's that need to balance it out with, is it extreme? Because with the Taurus, all the Scorpio energy over here pushing towards Taurus, because, the Sun and Mercury and Mars, that's a lot of energy in Scorpio. And they're all at those early decans as well, for this time being, of the sign. So something's coming into form. There could be some digging in and determination, which is great. And then there could be some stubbornness over here. And with Mars exactly opposing Jupiter, this can be blow-ups. It can be blow-ups, or it can be so much energy that you can use in the right way, step by step, day by day, moment to moment, rather than an extreme, like something that keeps you up all night because you just think you have to finish it now. Well, those are usually things that have to be redone, right? So it's, again, back to balance, back to honoring our body, connecting with others who are who are good listeners. Taurus rules the neck and the jaw and the neck and the throat. So that whole fifth chakra area. So it's about speaking the truth. And it's about, in the front, it has to do with speaking your feelings, or just, speaking up for yourself, and listening really well, too, because it relates to the whole olfactory gland connected to the ears, our smell. It's one of the major five senses, or there's taste within that area of your body. Just think about it. There's smell, there's hearing, there's taste, right? So if you think about how powerful that is, and then you relate it to back of the neck, that chakra there, the back of the 5th chakra is our executive center. So relate that into Pluto up here in Capricorn, squaring the nodes, and then Eris, back to Eris, with the courage to go forward in the direction that you know is right for you, and there's no one else that can tell you, what is right for you. This is part of the Scorpio energy over here, is that we're needing to let go of judgments. Unless it's not loving. I mean, if it's about war and hurting someone else or coming after someone else or, stinging someone else, which is a Scorpio kind of a thing, then of course that's the wrong way to go. But when it comes to what's loving, besides the Scorpion that rules Scorpio, what if it could be, because it's all about transformation, regeneration, transmutation, metamorphosis, what if we could change it up a little bit and put butterflies over here? Instead of scorpions, how about a butterfly? Why not? We can do that. We can reinvent things. That's what Uranus is all about. And with Taurus, instead of a bull, I don't have judgments over certain animals, but how about like a nice turtle? It takes its time, reminds me of abundance. What if we just think of Taurus, abundance, and Scorpio, determination? How about we just change it up that way? So it's time for connecting with anything and everything in your life that helps you to feel more positive pleasure and what you're grateful for, and listening within with all that 5th chakra, knowing and wisdom, and trusting the smells when they come, trusting the music lyrics when they're just popping in your head, even though you haven't been listening to music. Trusting maybe a weird taste you have in your mouth, even though you haven't eaten in hours, things like that. Those are guidance. Those are pieces of guidance. And if you take the time to stop and ask your body, okay, what are you trying to tell me? Ooh, what does that song relate to? Oh, I'll have to Google it. And then be careful not to get distracted. And with the fixed energy between Taurus and Scorpio, you probably will be just fine because you can zone in. Scorpio goes deep if you want to. It's determined. Both major keywords between for both Taurus and Scorpio are determination, right? So just remember that. What are you most determined to? What is it that you love so much in your life that you would just work it every day for free if you could? If and a lot of people probably could, right? If you're retired with a pension and Social Security, that's not me, but that's some people I know. They're very comfortable, and that's that beautiful time in their life when they can really focus on what makes their heart sing. And so maybe they make money on it later, or maybe they never make money on it. It doesn't matter. It contributes to their life, and what brings in pleasure, positive pleasure, and that energy always comes back. That's one of the things with Scorpio, the little tail. Just think of something coming back, and instead of it being, the scorpion again, how about butterflies come back? How about dragonflies? How about all the beautiful things in nature? Taurus is so related to nature. So yeah. So let's see, what else? Some other ways to support your process with this eclipse might be to let go of any attachment to other people's issues. That's a Scorpio thing there. Sometimes people will bring you their problems, or you get hooked in, like you're attracted to their problems, and you have to ask yourself, like, why? Like, why do you need to figure out exactly psychologically what's going on within them? That's a Scorpio thing, right? So if you can fall back into the Taurus full moon energy, realize that that can be a huge time waster, because, you know, Taurus energy can help us prioritize. And if you can figure out what you believe in the most, that's a Jupiter aspect, then you can come full circle with this full moon and really get inside of what you value most, right? So also, you want to let go of any emotional reactions, especially, like I was saying, the judgments and resentments, obsessions, compulsions. And most of all, comparing yourself to anyone else, which, you know, that violates spiritual law. We are all unique individuals, and we are not meant to compare ourselves to anyone else. So as soon as you start doing that, you know, with yourself, all you have to do is just go, oh, wait a minute, nah, that's not good. And just stop. Just stop yourself dead in your tracks and take a deep breath, let it all go, and then focus on what you want in your life. And that's another way to work this polarity too, is anytime you feel any emotional material come up, you know, and it's not to push it down at all. It's to let it come up, but use it to figure out. So if you're feeling anxiety, or you're angry, or you're feeling resentful, ask yourself, what do you really want? And usually we're projecting it onto another person. And so you might ask yourself, well, what do you want from that person? And then from there, like, what's the real motivation? That's a Mars, you know, thing, is what is it you're really wanting behind what's coming up behind all those feelings? And then give that to yourself instead of projecting it onto the other person. Like if you're wanting respect from another person, or you're pissed off at somebody because they've been disrespectful, they haven't seen you, they're not noticing you, they're just talking about other people all the time, and you're listening to them talk about other people. Meanwhile, you're sitting there going, well, who am I, chopped liver? Yeah, like that kind of a thing. So what you can do is just stop in the moment and respect yourself. And then you might realize that you really want to do something else rather than listen to them, and then you can go your own way. It's things like that, just those little things, and they can be life-changing. So things like that may come up, may come full circle. So yeah, so letting go of intensity and emotional impatience. Again, just, you know, when these things come up, just try to stop, take that deep breath, let it all go. If it keeps coming up, try to figure out what it is you're really wanting and give that to yourself. Let's see. Focus on mostly what you want in your life, I think, would be the best way to work that polarity. And then working on the positive side of Scorpio, we can discipline ourselves to choose, you know, big evolutionary changes in our lives. We can release whatever's been causing stagnation and wasting hours of our days, basically. And we can let go of things in our lives that don't hold any value anymore. They don't bring us happiness. We can open to accepting support from others and to be mutually supportive as well. We can risk being real with others, the ones that we trust, not just anybody, but the ones that we trust. And we can create something bigger that, you know, that what we could do alone, something bigger than what we could each do on our own. Then coming from the angle of the negative Taurian tendencies, we can let go of being, you know, stubbornly attached to things, like material things, because we don't dare be a little uncomfortable while we work for something new. You know, then again, boy, is it not like the perfect thing when you find the perfect pillow for you? things like that. Those are Taurian things that I'd say go for that. Anything that has to do with self-care. I'm not talking about not making yourself comfortable that way. When I'm talking about being uncomfortable would be it might be to reveal something to the other person that you're afraid to reveal, and we're working for a new level of intimacy by sharing ourselves. So, yeah. But most of all, try to feel into wherever in your life you've been bogged down and see what you might do to change it. And like I always say, every little attitude can lead to a big change, and the attitudes make so much of a difference. So let's see, with this full moon, some of the things you might want to let go of related to the negative side of Scorpio. Like I said before, emotional intensities and dramas and things like that, but there's also anything that kind of hooks you in and attracts you to crisis management, unless it's your own, in which case you'll be learning how to pick your battles, because with Mercury and Mars here in Scorpio, look how they're only 1 degree apart, and Mercury's moving really quickly. Mars moves quickly too, but they're together now. That's energy that could go into a big old verbal battle. So we're going to want to be careful. And it could also be those things that we might be dealing with are like a whole bunch of little problems that can waste energy, So we definitely don't want to waste any energy on verbal, relating to Mercury. Mercury's all verbal. And fights that could relate to Scorpio. So verbal fights, no. Too much focus on the war on TV, no, because nobody needs those images in their, coming into your sensory system like that at all. But you could listen while you're not looking at it, just to get the information. I do that a lot. I also get a lot of my information with the written word, which is another form of Mercury. All forms of communication are related to Mercury. So get the information in whichever way is easier on your sensory system. And that will help you so much with all this Taurian energy, especially with Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus. And they will come together, later on. But yeah, so there's that we can look forward to, because those can be big, huge breakthroughs. And all of these oppositions can lead to, they can be confrontations, inner or outer, and they can be the mirrors of relationship, but they can lead to big breakthroughs. Oppositions can always lead to breakthroughs. So, yeah, so we just have to be careful with Jupiter there and Mars opposing Mars, and with that Scorpio stellium, we have to be careful about things getting really intense really fast and blowing up all out of proportion. So again, back to just taking a big old deep breath and grounding, letting go, grounding yourself in your body, getting out of your head and into your body. And it'll be easier with that Taurus-Scorpio axis, it's great, actually, for energy work. And then with the Sun in the semi-square to Venus here in Virgo, right there, there might be a little need for integration. For all these things that we've learned about ourselves and the way we, how we can be more productive, or how we function, I guess is a better way to say it, in our lives. With the Venus trine to Uranus too, down here, we're most likely integrating some new awarenesses, and that can also support the big breakthroughs. So I wanted to say something about that. So I think we're all going to walk away knowing ourselves a little better after this full moon, and that's a good thing. But with Uranus here, with the trine to Venus, there's a real possibility that we're discovering some new ways of being more independent and free, some new avenues of our creative self-expression and our independence and our autonomy. So, be open to reinventing yourself, or maybe even inventing something, because Uranus is the planet of inventions, innovations, and inventions. So between the trine and the semi-square, you're going to want to take actions that lead to more freedom in your life. That's bottom line, the deal. And then with the sun and the south node trining Saturn, see how the sun here and the south node, both of these 2 points are trining Saturn in Scorpio, Saturn in Pisces, sorry, Saturn retrograde, no less, in Pisces. We can take control of some area in our life that's maybe been a little bit of a burden, or at least limiting in some way. You have to look and see where transiting Saturn is moving through your chart to figure out what house that's in. If it's in your 10th house, it's a time of working really hard. If it's in your 11th house, it's a time of working with other people and, group goals, things like that. Depending on where it's coming through in your house, but in your chart. But you just know that Saturn, it does bring things into form, and it creates, a solid foundation it can, definitely. But it can also bring delays because it's slow. It's slow moving in. But it's a planet. I actually love Saturn because it helps us work our way out or work our way through and figure out what works and what doesn't. It's very physical, solid. So, and then with the trine to the Libra South Node, the Sun trine Scorpio is really good for building something solid, especially if you're very determined. Spiritually, spiritual source foundations and something deep are all hallmarks of Saturn in Pisces over to this stellium or the Sun in Scorpio. And then Saturn to the South Node, that brings in the wisdom from the past. And especially because we had, with the South Node coming off the square to Pluto up here, we just might have some more wisdom about relationships, or at least how you relate to life. And you can use that information moving forward. So it just feels like there's a lot of integration, fullness, integration, coming full circle. Of course, those are all hallmarks of a full moon, but that energy's there even without the full moon. So there's a double whammy of it. Let's see. The Scorpio sun can, like I say, shine that light, and with the power of the full moon lunar eclipse, we can transform some old egoic traps that might have held us in a vicious circle all our lives. And it's most likely, of course, if there's anything that's been bothering us our entire life, we know that we brought it in from a past life. So this is something really important that we can work to be free of, because both Neptune and Saturn in Pisces connecting to the South Node. Neptune's here in this inconjunct to the South Node. Saturn's here with that trine. The inconjunct quincunx is that 150 degree aspect, means that there's an adjustment that needs to be made. So this is with Neptune energy. It's helpful to trust your higher self, to align with your higher self, even if you don't know what that means. If you set the intention to align with what is best for you, and pray in the positive, pray in the affirmative, like I am aligned with my higher self. My higher self always guides me. Things like that, affirmations in the positive. And it's important to make up your own, right? Because there's something about your inner voice and how powerful it is for each of us individually. So prayer, meditation can create miracles. And of course, everything happens on the inner levels first, and then the outer world responds to the inner. It's just the way it is. And with all this Scorpio energy, there's a fierceness that can help you get to the heart of things and really get to the truth of any matter that you apply your energy to. So, and as long as it's working on yourself rather than trying to control someone else or put energy out onto anyone else, as long as it's coming back to you, that will be the best way to use the energy. So, politically, the last thing I'll say before I get into the houses, well, there might be some other things to say, but anyway, politically, I feel like on the world stage, we might see some whistleblowers and investigative journalists coming forward and speaking up. And this would be, of course, it might happen this full moon, but it also might happen over the next month, and for sure the next 6 months are going to be really intense. But, these are the ones, the whistleblowers know what really happened. Like there was a whistleblower for Twitter before Elon Musk came on board, right, or before he bought it out. And there's that ICIJ, it's the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, it's ICIJ.com, that have been investigating money laundering all over the world. So there's that. There's going to be more and more coming out about that. Yeah. So let's look at how it might affect you based on your natal chart. So if you have yours, now would be a good time to, and I'll leave this here for another second in case, like, maybe you want to screenshot this. You can if you want. And then you have it. Okay. So I have my little template here. Oops. There we go. Let me turn this off, actually. Okay, for the houses, let me bring this up. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the houses. And so if you have your chart, then what we're going to want to do is know that the energy is going to come through that house that has 5 degrees of Taurus in your chart. So find that spot first. And then you're also going to want to see if it hits any planets or hot points of the 4 angles in your chart. So the hot points are the ascendant, the IC, descendant, midheaven, and I'll go over that in more detail as we go. But yeah, so if you have any planets, well, I like to use orbs, tide orbs of 2 degrees for the opposition and 3 degrees for the conjunction, and only 1 degree for a square, but only to the luminaries. You don't pick out a square to another planet just because it's a square to a planet. And I don't know why some astrologers are out there talking that way. For eclipses, there are different rules to be applied to the natal chart. So it's only a square to a luminary, which means the sun or the moon. Okay? So that means if you have any planets or hot points in 3 to 7 degrees of Scorpio or 2 to 8 degrees of Taurus, those are direct hits. So not only is the energy coming into that house of your chart affecting that area of your life, but it's also stimulating a natal planet. So this would be an important, transit for you when it comes to those oppositions. And remember that oppositions can lead to breakthroughs. So the energy of the particular planet, whatever planet that is, that's where you have to focus. Like if it's coming in on your Saturn, it could be you're letting go of some old rigid old, conditionings of growing up with your parents, or some things coming up that you're or maybe you're having to deal with elderly parents. That could be a very real thing as well. But anyway, it's whatever particular planet is being affected in this eclipse, that can change your life and help you to release and transform something, according to whatever planets are being connected. But like I said, for squares, I only use that orb of 1 degree and only to one of the luminaries. So if you have your sun or your moon between 4 to 6 degrees of Leo or Aquarius, this will be an important eclipse for you, especially in terms of your creative self-expression. That's Leo. And then connection with all of those who are, a part of your tribe or your kindred spirits. So you're also going to want to look at the houses that hold your natal Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, and Venus, the ruler of Taurus, to get more clues as to what you came in with this lifetime to, transform within your soul and what you naturally attract, because it's such a big part of who you truly are in the spiritual realms. So your natal Pluto, with the house that it's in, that, in your natal chart, where it came in when you were born, and its aspects will always show you your personal power and what you brought in to heal in relationship with your power. Okay? It will represent the journey of your soul's evolution and all your healing work that leads to the empowerment of your spirit to come through your soul, so you're eventually at one with your highest self. Your natal Venus will reveal what brings harmony into your life, because that's who you are in union with your spirit. Venus helps attract, so that's a cool thing to remember. She helps us attract what we value most, so we can look at our charts for clues there. See where your natal Venus is, what house, and I bet you'll learn a lot about yourself that way. It should confirm what you already know about yourself. So, and we can make comparison values about what we want to attract, because Venus is really, truly related to our self-worth. That's a very Taurian aspect of Venus as well. And our relationships and what brings pleasure into our life. And, and as we age, those things change too. So anyway, just think with Taurus, it's all things practical. It's all about preserving what is your personal, your possessions, but also what you value. So with this one, I would say, just get down into the most personal and practical, back up buy flash drives and back up your docs and anything that really matters to you most on your computers. With Scorpio, sometimes we're in the realm of insurance policies and inheritances, managing things like that, or maybe you're helping, like I was saying, you're an elderly parent or parents, or an aunt or an uncle, or anyone in your family that you love that can't take care of themselves very well anymore. You might be merging your resources with them and helping them out in the later stages of life, or it could even be taking care of someone who no matter what age, is needing a lot of support. So, and then also always remember that like I was saying before, that Taurus rules the neck and the throat. So, and Scorpio rules the elimination system too. So, those areas of our bodies we're going to want to, be careful with. Okay, so let's go through the houses now. So, if this full moon lunar eclipse is coming through, or it's partial full moon, but close enough. If it's coming in on your ascendant, well, just imagine, or just don't imagine, just remember that I got in meditation back in 2000, that the ascendant magnetizes. So if you have Taurus on your ascendant, coming in on this first house of your body, your sense of self. It's everything you are. It's everything that you resonate with. It has everything to do with the law of affinity and attraction, where like attracts like. So you would naturally attract more positive pleasure, more ways to take care of your body, more ways to shore up your finances and all things practical in life. And this can be a really good time for you. So you might have to be careful. Above all, all of us with Taurus, all of you with Taurus ascendants, but especially if it's coming in right there at that angle and opposing everything over here in the 7th, that could put you in that situation where you really need to be careful about those fights, because it really does put, Mercury, Mars, and, that stellium in, Sun, Mercury, Mars in your 7th house. So you want to be careful about, destroying relationships based on just a stupid little squabble that didn't need to happen if somebody could have just stopped and walked away, right? But most of all, it can help you with your health. It can help you, with any issue with your body. It's that that part of your chart that is, I think, the hottest of all. That point is just, talk about the 4 hot points. The ascendant is the hottest of all, I think. So, and then same thing with if you have, let's say you have a late degree Aries ascendant or Aries, but you have 5 degrees of Taurus somewhere in the 1st house. Same thing, except it's just not as much of a hot point, but it's still there. So everything I said would also apply to anyone with 5 degrees, or that 3 to 7 degrees of Scorpio actually just anywhere in that 1st house. But if there's a planet in there, then you have to add the information, the planetary information in there. And if you want, I have lessons for, I don't know how many you just devoted to astrology. I think there might be 38 videos devoted to astrology, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. All I know is I have 107, I think it's 107, teaching videos in my membership. You have to go to the lessons level, and it is $25 a month, but you get 107 videos, and you can learn all about astrology, taking you through all the planets, the signs, the aspects, the nodes, how transits work in your chart, all of it. Just, there's so much. And then you can also you can also get in, if you want to learn about cards, if you want to learn how to read tarot or Lenormand or Kipper, that's all in there, and tons of card spreads. There's a lot. So if you know your chart, that's useful information that will last forever. And you can watch the videos, take notes, and heck, you could even record me on your phone or something, with like, what is it, voice memo. Turn on your phone and, get the information that way. And then unsubscribe after a month. You can join for just 1 month and then that's it. Or join for 3 months and get, a lot. So there's that. Okay, so let's imagine that you have the 5 degrees Taurus coming in through your 2nd house. Well, that would put you with that very natural zodiac with Aries over here, Taurus ruling the 2nd house. So this is your house of, it's more than money and self-worth. These are simplified because I just can't fit everything in there, right? But the 2nd house has everything to do with what you value. And it's your possessions that are liquid and tangible, liquid that you can move, like money in the bank, but tangible, like your house. But the house could also relate to the fourth, definitely fourth house. But, just imagine you have a house and you could borrow money against it. That's a tangible asset. But it's the house that rules all of your personal belongings and your personal finances, the personal money that comes in and goes out. And to have the full moon coming in there could be something that comes full circle. Like, let's say you've had something in escrow, or you've been waiting on a job, or you've been waiting on a promotion, or you've come full circle in some way in working on your issues of self-worth, which means you don't look outside yourself for admiration, approval, or love. It's great when it comes from the outside, but if you don't have it on the inside, you're always going to be, hurting. You don't want to be in that position. That's something we should work through when we're younger. Hopefully they'll teach that in school someday. Yeah. So, okay. Then if it comes through your third house, if you have Taurus in your third house, that would mean that you really value communication. You really value maybe your siblings. The third house is everything to do with, it's siblings, but it's most of all our capacity to think and what we think about. So if Taurus is there naturally, natally, you would most likely think naturally about security. Taurus relates so much to self-preservation and security and survival, things like that. You would probably be one of those people that are always prepared, and that's a beautiful thing. And you would probably be someone who communicates from a very grounded perspective, where hopefully there's not a lot of distractions, but where you're able to make good decisions because you go slow with your thinking progress or process, and then from there it's just very, to me it just feels very grounded that way. It's always good to be with somebody who doesn't talk 90 miles an hour and you're trying to get on that train with them, but you can't get your feet up on the step even, right? Yeah. So, but the third house relates to the way that we like to learn things. So with the third house, it would probably be, with Taurus there, it would probably be that you like listening. Reading's always good too, because with Taurus there's the tangible, the sensory, the tactile in the books, like the pages and all of that is a really wonderful thing. But you might also take in information really well by listening to, audiobooks. So yeah, and with the full moon coming in there might be some fruitions and culminations in your study habits. And oh my goodness, with the third house, it's so much. It's just, back to the way a person thinks, and it's full. It could be that your mind is really full with this full moon, and maybe you are just having to let go of distractions. That's probably more likely. But it is the house of, learning. So if you do have natally the moon and Jupiter would be there, and maybe even Taurus, depending on, or Taurus, what am I saying, Uranus. It depends on how much of the third house, what's on the cusp here and here, how many degrees it covers. It's possible you could have the full moon, Jupiter and Uranus in this, with this full moon happening. And the full moon, let's say the full moon hits your natal, because it will. Let's pretend that this third house cusp is 5 degrees. Well, as soon as the full moon hits, it'll be affecting the third. And then every day that the moon, actually every hour that the moon transits closer to Jupiter, then it'll hit Jupiter and then it'll hit Uranus. So this would be a really, hot house for you. And that's the case too with all of the houses. That Jupiter-Uranus lineup with the full moon can bring through those big changes, again, back to what do you really believe in, because Jupiter's all about our belief systems. And then whatever we believe in is where we will invest our energy, right? Because, we have to remember that our belief system organizes our reality. So we want to open up to a bigger belief system. Taurus is not necessarily broad thinking because it's more finite in terms of survival and, tangible. Like what's in my bank account and what do I have? And if I need to, what can I sell? Or if I need to, for any security reason, what do I buy? Those are Taurian principles. So if you think that way, in terms of your thinking processes, you'll understand why this full moon eclipse is so important. So let's move to the fourth house. So if that same energy is coming into your fourth house, it relates to all of your psychic sensitivities, your real needs, whether they were met or unmet in childhood. Those things might come up. But that could also, relate back to the second house too. So what I'm saying about the fourth could also relate to the second, because this is the house of real needs as well. But generally with the fourth house, of course, it's home. It's our family. It's all things related to what we do around the house. It's, again, that house of what we possess that's fixed. It's Taurus fixed energy. Cancer is cardinal energy, but it still wants the same security. Taurus and Scorpio both want security, right? So it's, our home, property, oh my goodness, it has everything to do with our parental relationships when we were growing up. It has usually the house that represents a person's mother and grandmother, maybe. Could also be 10th house though too. I try not to hold hard and fast with those rules. But generally, because the fourth house is ruled by the moon, it usually rules the mother. Saturn usually rules the dad. And I have, in all my astrology readings over the years, that has held up. That principle definitely has held up. Let's see, what else with the fourth house? Just anything that relates to our early childhood environment. And, like I was saying before, the real needs, whether they were met or unmet. The real needs are to be loved, to be cared for, to have warmth, to have connection most of all, and to have, to be seen and heard and eventually understood, right? So, there's a lot there. But yeah, generally it's the house of home and our roots, ancestors, end of life care for elderly people as well is part of the fourth house. So to have, the moon, Jupiter, and Uranus coming through there, there could be changes in the home, but they will lead to more security. So not to worry. Everything will work out. With Jupiter and Uranus coming through there, it's or transiting in your fourth house. It's not anything to worry about. It just can be in a very enlightened home as well, as Uranus is transiting through. Or an enlightened experience with family members, or a lot of enlightened experiences with family members. So yeah, okay, so now the fifth house, this is our house of creative self-expression, pleasure, it can have to do with everything social, as well as the 11th house can be that too, but especially the 5th. It's things that bring us, that are fun, you know. Kids, hanging out with kids, no matter how old they are, playing games. The 5th house can also relate to, you know, sports, anything that's entertaining. Anything that's entertaining. Of course, just think of, you know, movie stars and things like that. A lot of Leo energy there. It's the house that rules sometimes our education and where we go for our education, which nowadays is pretty much online. But yeah, so if you have the full moon and Jupiter and Uranus coming through this house, that's a lot of energy into what could really turn into something that, whether it brings you pleasure or not in the beginning, it probably will later on. Just allow yourself to go with what you're really wanting, and be open to learning, and be open to having more fun in life, most of all. Okay, in your 6th house, if you have the full moon there, if you have Taurus in your 6th house, and you have the full moon and, of course, Jupiter and Uranus, then we're wanting to be careful with our health. And like I said, you know, the throat and your neck, be very careful, especially with your neck, with this transit. But you've already had Jupiter and Uranus sitting there for quite some time, so you're probably pretty used to taking good care of yourself. And you might have even reinvented yourself, or reinvented at least your self-care. This is the house of self-care. Besides health, work, and service, it's major self-care. It's a house where we make adjustments because of either our health, our work, or we want better health, we want more work, or we make changes to our scheduling to take care of ourselves better, or we take on more because we can. It has everything to do with our diet and our nutrition, hygiene, like I said, self-care, health care. We want to, you know, most of all, take really good care of ourselves with this one. If you do leave your home for work and you're working, this would be, you know, the general working conditions, so they could get better, they could change with Jupiter and Uranus there, and that would be something that wouldn't be news to you because you've already been, you know, going through that. Let's see, and then with, yeah, 6th house ruling little critters, you know, all pets, so your fur babies, even your goldfish, or any fish. Then with the 7th, if we have Taurus in the 7th house, and the full moon, Jupiter and Uranus coming through there, then this is our house of others. It's our house of usually, you know, committed relationships and partnerships, but it doesn't have to be. I notice that it's more just the people that you interact with often. And people that are close to you usually, but then sometimes it's just how you deal with the public, you know, because it's the opposite house of your first, you know, your sense of self. And then based on your sense of self and how well you know yourself, that energy goes to the 7th house. So if there's Taurus there, you're already naturally wanting to be with people that you trust, people that you feel safe with, people where you feel like you can really build something, you know, stable with. People that if you have Taurus there, naturally you probably have friends that you've had for a lifetime, and they may leave for a while because they're doing something, or you guys get busy while you're working on other things, but then you get back together, or you connect over the phone, whatever it is, and it's like, you know, there was no time. There's still that deep connection in the heart. So, and then having Jupiter and Uranus there, things have been expanding and changing, and there was probably more enlightenment coming in through your relationships that help you, and vice versa. Because relationships are mirrors, basically. So with Taurus there, the people you feel safe with, they probably know you really well, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, in the 8th house, if this stellium of Taurus is coming through in the 8th house, this is a house of psychic things, all psychic things, as well as the 4th. I should have said that more with the 4th. I think I said sensitivities, but 4th, 8th, and 12th are psychic houses, as well as the moon, Pluto ruling this house. Mars used to be the old ruler. Mars can be, I mean, all the planets can be a little psychic, but especially moon ruling and Neptune ruling Pisces there. So, okay, back to the 8th house. So it's a house of transformation. It's the house of death, sex, inheritances, your resources based in partnerships, and any interests financially that you hold jointly with others. It can be the house of your own personal legacy that you maybe don't know, but you've been working on all your life. If you start thinking in terms of who are you and what will you leave behind, and maybe it's only your love. Well, that's everything, right? It's not just or only, it's everything. And we could say, the 7th house is a house of love. Well, the 8th house would be deep love, that it brings through such an intense amount of love that it can be a little scary, right? Intimacy can be scary until you're really comfortable with it. It's just like exercise. It's a muscle that you have to work, but only with people that you trust, and they've earned your trust. I always feel like anyone deserves my love, but only certain people deserve my trust, and that's something that's built over time. So, so 8th house, taxes, alimony payments even. It's any assets that might be inherited as well, and it's also the house of insurance. Scorpio rules this house. And of course, sex, all things sex. But to me, sex is really just an exchange of consciousness, an exchange of life force. So it doesn't have to be the physical act, right? The 8th house can also be our house of, our business partners, like I was saying before, like any joint financial partnering up, but also how we get rid of things and recycle them, and maybe we're gifted with Taurus here. Maybe we're very, very gifted with creating beautiful things out of something that was previously used. It's like a beautiful way of recycling. There's so much out there like that. Like there's tires that they have built underground homes using tires, and of course they're all covered in things so that you don't smell the awful, tires stink. But old tires, and ways that people could build things that way. And then there's all types of different things besides tires that people are using for building homes nowadays, that are ways of rejuvenating something that was super old or just used, basically, and now it's something brand new that is really stable. That is a hallmark of scorpionic energy there. That's why I was feeling like, let's put butterflies at the Scorpio side. right? Yeah. Okay, so ninth house. Ninth house is our house of our belief systems. It's a house of divination. It's the house of, so much in the ninth house. Publishing, media of all types, all law, spiritual law, man-made law, natural law, everything, courts of law, all legal affairs. If you have Taurus here and you're having Jupiter, Uranus, and the full moon, and you've been involved in a law, situation or court case, or you've been doing jury duty or whatever, with the full moon coming, it could be complete, could be done. It's also the house that rules foreign countries, the house that rules religion, universities. When it comes to relatives, it would be the relatives of your marriage partner. If you're married, or if you're not married and you're just in a life partnership, it would be like you might call them your in-laws. And then it's the house of large animals, so horses, giraffes. I'm trying to think of some really big animals, rhinoceroses, but I like it most for the house of divination. And I have my Mars in the ninth house, so that's a thing that I've always, I love. I didn't want to go to, I didn't want a master's or a PhD. I wanted to learn everything about the way the universe works. Okay, so then 10th house. If we have Taurus here and we have the moon and Jupiter and Uranus coming in this house, or Jupiter and Uranus has been here for quite some time, this is our house of how we interact with society. It's our house of career and reputation and, our professional life, what we're interested in, even if we're not, maybe we're retired, then this would be still what you're interested in and how you participate with life. Same thing there with the midheaven. If that 5 degrees of the full moon is coming up here and on the midheaven, that's a very major hot point. I forgot to go through that, darn it. Sorry. So the ascendant magnetizes. The IC is bottom line roots. It's a very karmic, it's like the well of wisdom that you sit in. It's like putting the south node right here, basically. And then the 7th house is relationship, love. Midheaven up here is how we participate. And it can have to do with that. Well, the ascendant can be more about our life purpose, but it relates to the midheaven as well, too. So it's hard to nail that down, other than just think of this lower half as our inner world and this top half as our outer world. So how do we participate with society most of all is the midheaven. Okay, so and it might have to do with what we achieve over our lifetime. It's how we participate with other people that we respect, and there's mutual respect, and it can be just your natural direction of life applied to your career and your worldly ambitions and anything outside of your personal life, right? So, and to have Taurus up here is actually, that would be pretty good to have Taurus in the 10th house for career, because you could really have that sense of who you are in the outer world. It just very naturally flows through you. So yeah, but anyway, it has everything to do with your public life and what you achieve in the outer world and your professional standing And it could also relate to your, if you do work outside the home and you work for someone else, this would be your employer or your supervisors. And it's also the house that rules the government. But yeah, I think that's about it. Okay, so let's go to the 11th house. The 11th house is a lot more than just group and organizations. And if you have Taurus here, it would be a very practical house for you. It would turn out to be that you have very practical, beautiful, solid goals. And it has everything to do with the friends that you choose. And if there are any groups and organizations that you feel your kindred spirit type of connection with, to have Jupiter and Uranus there, and then the full moon coming in, all that transiting, that stellium of Taurus transiting through the 11th house could be a really fun time for you. So yeah, any cooperation through, working with different colleagues, co-workers, which could also be 6th house, but 11th house, it just brings in everything. And it's also the house of awareness. So you might be more aware of like who you like and what groups you want to affiliate yourself with, and what are your goals. It's most of all goals for this house. Like, what are your future goals? And they will be expanding and changing with Jupiter and Uranus there. So that's great. Let's go to the 12th house. So the 12th house is, I know it says here, secrets and things that are hidden. Well, it's also the house of our spirituality. And it's also the house of how we can create more freedom in our life, because it's the culmination of everything that we have learned over lifetimes after lifetime after lifetime. It's huge. The 12th house is so much more than the house of, the traditional meanings of self-undoing and bondage and limitations and anxiety and everything we worry about, and prison and, seclusion. Well, or things that we want to hide from everyone. Those things can be true for some people, but what I would say could be more true would be that it's your house of spirituality. It's your house of the things that you hold the dearest, to your soul. And it's also the house of organizations that are geared towards compassion, like welfare relief type of agencies, and any charities, things like that. It's also the house that rules hospitals and, rest homes. It is the house that rules, jail and prisons too. I mean, that is true in any detention type of a situation. And it is a house of karma. So there is that. But with Jupiter, with this whole, Taurus stellium, and especially Jupiter and Uranus there, coming through the 12th house, whoa, I remember when I first had Uranus transit through my 12th house, my intuition really opened, really opened. And well, I have the moon in there too, so when Uranus hit my moon, it made a big difference. But I don't fear the 12th house at all. I see it as actually, well, maybe because I don't mind seclusion. That's the thing with my moon there. I don't, it's a full, for me, it's so connected to the 9th in that there's such an amount of fullness in that house. And with Taurus and the energy of Taurus there would be even more fullness. You would love being in your own possessions. You would love the expansion of your spirituality. You would love the enlightenment and the awareness that Uranus is bringing in with that transit. And I think it could actually be very beautiful. So yeah, so with all things 12th house, we're also related, we're in that realm of Well, the downside is you have to be careful with addictions. You have to be careful with, you know, people who are involved in cults. You have to be careful of being gullible. There's a lot there in the 12th house, but with Taurus there naturally, for you, that I'm not worried about you, because I would think that you would have a good sense of, well, unless you get stuck in that narrow-mindedness that sometimes can be a part of Taurus, where it's hard to look outside to something bigger. But in the 12th house, I would think that you would be able to look at something bigger. And I would think that you would be gifted with envisioning and imprinting something new. And it can relate to so much, you know, the creativity that comes through from the higher realms. So as long as you're not in chaos, and as long as you're not, you know, if you're dealing with addictions, you'll work it through. Just keep, you know, no matter how many times a person has to go to rehab or start over, it doesn't matter. You don't compare yourself to what the other people have done. You do whatever you have to do. And you're not done until you're done. But if you keep coming back to that balance of your health and how you feel in your body, and you keep going towards the pleasure that you can have spiritually in your body, then you'll get it. You'll have it. It'll work out. So, okay, well, that's all I have for this. I'm going to get this uploaded. Wish you big hugs, and take good care. Bye.